we're about to shift our focus to a topic that is close to the cultural heart of Indian cinema, the revival of single-screen theaters. Single screens were once the beating heart of towns and smaller cities across India. They were not just places to watch movies, they were community hubs where stories, culture, and memories were shared. Over the past decade, however, many of these theaters have struggled with rising costs, aging infrastructure, competition from multiplexes, and changing audience preferences. Yet, today, there is a renewed momentum to bring them back to life. Digitisation, upgraded projection and sound systems, regional content, flexible programming, and innovative community engagement are all breathing new life into these cinemas. Reviving single screens is not just about nostalgia. It's about opportunity, because with the right blend of technology, culture, and entrepreneurship, these theaters are once again about to become profitable and culturally significant. Now, to explore this fascinating topic, today we have a distinguished panel of leaders who are driving change in the single-screen ecosystem. And today they're here with us to share their thoughts on bringing back the magic. Can India's single screens rise again? Please join me in welcoming on stage our speaker, Chinmoy Sharma, Managing Director of Anuradha Cinema, Guwahati, a theatre that has successfully integrated modern projection systems while preserving its heritage charm. Chinmoy has been at the forefront of combining technology with traditional cinema to attract modern audiences. Ladies and gentlemen, please keep your hands clapping as we bring our speakers on stage. Next, may I please invite Mr. Daggubati Suresh Babu, one of India's most respected film producers from Suresh Productions, who brings a deep understanding of both content creation and distribution. He has produced some of the most iconic regional and national films and continues to advocate for cinema that reaches audiences across all formats. Next, may I please invite Kushal L.C., CEO of Veeresh Cinemas, a chain known for modernizing single-screen theaters with smart investment in digital projection, sound, and audience experience. Kushal has been instrumental in proving that traditional theaters can compete in the digital age. Next, it is my pleasure to introduce and welcome Prem Ilangovan, Director of DNC Theatres. With decades of experience running successful cinemas across South India, he brings hands-on insight into operations, audience engagement, and innovative programming for smaller cinemas. Next, may I please welcome Mr. Suresh Shenoy, Managing Partner at Shenoy Cinemas, whose leadership has seen single screens reimagined as vibrant community spaces blending entertainment, culture, and comfort for local audiences. Next, I would like to welcome Vishek Chauhan, CEO of Roop Bani Cinema, which has implemented creative strategies to attract younger audiences to heritage cinemas, combining film screening with events, regional content, and modern amenities. Now, moderating this session is Mr. Akshay Rathi, Director of Ashirwad Theatres, a seasoned expert in cinema operations and audience engagement. And today he is here to guide us through a discussion on how single screens can adapt, innovate, and rise again in the 21st century. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give our speakers a huge round of applause for an inspiring conversation on how these single screens are about to reclaim their place in our wonderful country. Over to you, Akshay.
Thank you so much, and truly honored to have such a prolific panel. Not only are these people movers and shakers of the single screen exhibition space, I think Raghav, compliments to you for curating this panel, where we have representation from the Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam and Kannada fraternities and people from, the heartland of India. So Chinmoy Dada all the way from Guwahati, Vishek who's coming from all the way from Bihar, Purnia. So truly, truly privileged, and this is as comprehensive and complete as it gets. So thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Let me get to a couple of topics that we were talking about that I think would be very relevant to this discussion. So single screens, of course, are the mothership of the exhibition space. This is the format in which it started and has been into play for over 100 years. Of course, there is a lot of change that has happened to exhibition, where a lot of single screens have given way to multi-screen properties or commercial spaces, but there still is a significant count of them that all of us run which exist. Now, multiple functions that we'll get down to one after the other. One thing that I think all of us would agree upon, which is a pain point and makes our heart bleed, is programming, right? Where, including as recently as the weekend that went by with 2 big ticket movies and some regional cinema doing well, one thing that can be seen as a constraint or an opportunity in terms of where the single screens stand today versus what's really possible is something that I think we should start speaking about. Suresh Babu Garu, since Andhra Telangana is a state where you have Hindi movies doing well, you have the 4 southern languages doing well. If you'd like to open your remarks with the play of programming for single screens.
See, there is definitely the wish of the single screen owner that he would want to play both the films. For example, last week, because his audience wants to see both the films in that vicinity, but the distributors want only to give one film. Now, this is an ongoing battle. Whether it's rich versus poor or big versus small. The single screen is not treated, or he doesn't have the strength to get the terms that he wishes to get. A multiplex will get that opportunity. You go to a multiplex property, you can see all these films there. You go to plexes where there are 3-4 screens, single screen has that disadvantage. Can it be overcome? Yes, if the distributor/producer is willing to do it. But will he do it? Big question. They also don't give us the same relative terms that a multiplex gets. They want different terms for single screens. They treat it differently. Now, do we have to live with it? Probably. Or you want to fight them? Maybe. I don't know. That's the problem. And it has to be addressed. Some states have addressed it well. Some states have not addressed it well enough.
So, you wear multiple hats. Of course, here you're wearing the hat of an exhibitor, but you're also a distributor and a producer in a studio. So you've spoken about the problem. What do you think is the pragmatic solution to it that distributors, producers on one side and exhibitors on the other need to address and resolve in the benefit of the whole sector?
See, there is a serious trust deficit between both the parties. You don't trust the other guy across the table. The distributor and / producer thinks that this guy is cheating, he's earning money, something. He's getting money in canteen, he's getting money in car parking. He thinks that all that is only because of his cinema and nothing else. He's nothing without the movie that I give him. And he's sitting on a lot of real estate. Eventually, he will sell out and go. So why should I take care of him? That's as simple as that. My movie is here. I have to suck and do whatever I can. In the first place, why did these single screens, which were run by single owners, go into the hands of lessees, go into the hands of somebody else? It's because that man, that single screen owner, he was not being treated in a respectable manner, whether by the distributor or their agents. He was like a small fry. But he's the guy who built that cinema is not a small fry. He's a big man in a small town. And that respect went off. And then they were taking advances from these people, not returning the advances. So he left that business and he handed it over to some lessee. And that lessee maybe has 5 or 10 more cinemas and he tries to do a little bit of arm twisting or whatever. And then it carried on. What is really fair that we play percentage for every movie everywhere, all over the country. You have a certain multiplex, for multiplexes you have a certain percentage, and for single screens you give them a certain lesser percentage. Accountability everybody should have. Every single screen owner should make it as accountable as possible, use all the tech that is needed. Then we will last for longer. See, the distributor slash producer should remember that he is not paying only for the usage. He is paying for that business to hold on. There are products that it's not just I'm using it for this week. If you don't take care of the single screen, you are going to have lesser opportunities of single screens. He will shut down, he will build something else. And eventually it will become a multiplex. Then you will pay him the same percentage, which you were not willing to pay when he was a single screen owner. So that we'll have to realize. But do we have that foresight? Maybe, maybe not. That's what.
Got it, sir. Chinmoy Dada, coming to you, the one intrinsic difference between single screens and a stereotypical national chain multiplex is that a PVR or an Inox or a Cinepolis is more often than not located on the second or third floor of a mall, versus that we actually are, in the middle of a very prime real estate space in every city that we exist in, and have access to a lot of people who can avail amenities or things that we offer on the ground floor itself, which may or may not essentially be the audience that's coming to buy a movie ticket. Now, for weeks, when movie ticket sales are not great because of the quality of the movie or the traction for it, there are many things that can be innovated to ensure that that real estate that we are sitting on gives you significant value and returns to make sure that at least your operational expenses are taken care of. Now, it could be gaming arcades, it could be a sports arena, it could be a food court. Would love to have you speak about the kind of opportunities of ancillary incomes that you think can be created out of these properties, especially since most of us actually own the real estate and have the flexibility to do what we want to.
Yeah, as you know, during the COVID, 2 years we were shut down actually. So at that time, Anuradha Cinema, just for the audience, it started on 1st January 1971, so we are 54 years old. And we had this balcony, and then we had this popular, So during the COVID time, what I did was, we extended the balcony till the screen actually, so that it became something like a multiplex, one floor. And I got the below space of around 7,500 square feet of space, which we made it into a departmental store and other things, which helped us to sustain ourselves, and that the rent that I'm getting from that store itself is helping me to maintain the hall itself, So that is something we did on our side, so that, we have one floor, and with the same building, not touching the screen or the projector, we are getting additional value for money. So I think that is something could be thought of by any other single screen who has a balcony and a below things.
Got it. Okay, Kushal, this is a stereotype, I realize. I'm coming to the Bangalore guy and talking about data. Just a quick thing. One thing that we probably, purely because of the reason that we don't enjoy economies of scale and we don't interface enough with digital solutions around ticketing, around data analytics, a lot of our functions can potentially suffer, whether it's programming to really gauge what sort of demand and supply exists for those locations. That is data that's probably setting with a book my show or district compared to, us having it directly. So in terms of data analytics and the impact that the right leveraging of it can have on single screens to ensure optimal programming, the right kind of marketing, the right kind of ticket pricing, would love to have you speak about that.
Well, that's true actually, Akshay, because today looking at the scenario of our industry, how our industry is going, it's like a on and off movies scheduling we have across India actually. And we are just occupied, say, 50 to 60% of the entire year. We are just occupied for 50 to 60 times of it. And what we do for the next 40%. So in that case, as you said, uh, bringing in the vintage cinemas, the old cinemas, or even programming and regional cinemas. So you see, in Bangalore, the major movies what we play is Kannada, Tamil, Telugu, Hindi,
Kaushal,
English.
Bangalore, you play
Yeah,
everything and
but
everything
now, uh, we should also, if we have a good data on the population or the people, we can also play the regional Bhojpuris and BRS and Bengali languages also we can play. And also, if there are people, for example, I do have a convention center in my, I do own a convention center. And for every this one, Dasara, there are huge North Indian, West Bengalis and Biharis come that on thousands of them. So if we have a data of that, like if there are interested people who watch the movie in that region, so we can offer them a special screening for their own choice. Uh, this will also help the industry for exhibitor as well as for the producer also, because that's been not been still we haven't explored that part. So it's good. We should do that. And apart from this one, we have ample technologies available in the market for the film industry. We should utilize them. Like how Suresh Babu sir said, trust issues. So we have several companies which are built on AI technology. They can give accurate occupancy in the screens. So that adaptation of that one technology will solve the trust issues. So we should step forward and we should, all the producers, distributor and exhibitor, all three of us should join hands together and go for the new technologies.
But Kaushal, talking of technology, one thing that's been debated a lot and probably is working beautifully in other sectors is the concept of flexi pricing, right? Whether it's airlines, whether it's hotels, the pricing changes dynamically in almost an automated manner basis the law of demand and supply. That is something that we are struggling with on two counts. One is the compliances in terms of the taxation that's at play. Every municipal corporation has a different way of dealing with it. What do you think is the solution of getting that right, as well as the right kind of technologies that can be deployed to make sure that the play of flexi pricing helps us increase occupancies, which of course in turn result in better on-screen advertising revenues, better food and beverage revenues, because footfalls is really the crux of these properties doing well?
Well, price cap is again a big debatable topic, because there are both the sides of this. Some says you keep the price less, so more people come in, and it will be economical for the moviegoers also, and people will watch more movies instead of watching only one. That's one, and the other one. Today, the production cost and the technology invested in the production also is too high, and to recover that one, obviously we need to invest more on. We should. The only option for them is cinema box office. So there are both the way there is a debate going on, but we all should. This is my personal opinion. We all should realize ourselves and keep the price in the mid. It should not be too less. Like at few states, it's too less, and at some point, exploiting audience is also not good, because if the movie doesn't give the amount of satisfaction for what he has paid, again it will be a negative impact for the next future films of that actor and the technicians and also the production team. So we should also look into this part, and we should always be economical and also not be so burden on the people pockets also.
Pricing is something which is, like he said, whom are we catering to? For example, when we were much younger, we used to have 4 classes in a theater. Balcony, reserved, chair, and then low ground or something. And we had all types of audience coming in. Slowly that became 1, 2, then you just lost a certain set of audience. I remember when we used to play our films earlier in RTC Crossroads, even the day that we were removing the film, the entire lower class used to be full. That 20 rupee ticket, 40 rupee ticket is always full. Now that audience has been sent away from cinema. So we as exhibitors have to decide what is the target audience. Do you not want anybody who can pay less money into your property at all? Why 40 bucks, AC so much, this is so much, why should I? So that's where we've lost the plot. You're just trying to say that one size fits all. India has all sizes. No, we'll have to see how we can design our spaces to see that everybody is taken care of.
Got it. Suresh, so I'm coming to you for something very interesting. I think all of us would unanimously agree that in terms of the business of cinemas, Kerala right now is probably the sweet spot where the content across, size and scale is doing really well. The quality of exhibition infrastructure is top notch. All of us could really take inspiration from what's happening in Kerala right now in terms of how over the last 10 years, the box office has grown manifold at that pace. So if you can just spill some beans on what the secret sauce is and what's happening right in Kerala, that's probably not happening everywhere else.
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. Actually, over the last 10 years, we could see the tectonic shift in Kerala's theatrical revenue and the theatrical business. Over the last 10 years, the Kerala box office has gone up from 500 crores to almost 2,000 crores now. Partly because the theaters in Kerala, mostly single screens, have converted to multi-screens. And I would say the total count of screens in Kerala now would be about 650 or so, out of which less than 10% would be single screens continuing now. So the rest have all converted their 1,000-seaters and 900-seaters into 2 or 3 screens. And that has helped them in programming flexibility, in controlling their expenses, and also operative freedom. Kerala has a release schedule of about 200 to 220 films a year. So that makes it almost on a regular basis about 4 films a week. So by converting your single screen into a multi-screen, you have the opportunity to screen all the films and not miss out on any film that may turn out to be a multi-bagger. That is one aspect of it. And that I feel is one of the key reasons why Kerala has done well. Apart from the fact that the movies also that has come out from Kerala are all top-notch at least over the last 5 years, post-COVID. Small movies with very small budgets are also accepted now in Kerala, apart from the big ones, which is a very good change as far as the business is concerned. So these smaller theaters with smaller screens with 100, 150 seats, are able to accommodate these smaller pictures and give them a good exhibition window. So that has actually helped the Malayalam movie actually reach a peak, while most of the other languages are still struggling, especially Hollywood and Hindi films. And moreover, post-COVID, I think people have got used to seeing films with subtitles, films of different languages. So nowadays, we are also able to screen Telugu, Kannada, Oriya, and other language movies in Kerala, at least in the main cities, which is a very welcome change. So I feel the one way forward, apart from many of the factors which the other eminent panelists have listed, is also to convert big potential single screens to multi-screens for a better programming and a better profitability in the next near future to come.
Hopefully the next year we'll have a debate about not just single screens, but independently held screens where all of us would, probably contribute to that infrastructural growth as well. Prem, coming to you, Tamil Nadu is actually again a very peculiar state because it's one of the earliest states where the concept of ticket price capping came into play. Right? Earlier it used to be 120 and now it's 160 since the GST regime. Yeah. And it is a state where the authorities, the governments have a lot of, interaction and engagement with the sector in many ways. And compliances is a huge part of what we do, where I'm sure depending on which state and region you are in, there are about 10 to 20 NOCs that you have to procure every year to renew the license, which is something that is quite a process. And there's been a talk of one window clearances and all, which has not come into effect yet. But I'd love to know, in terms of compliances, what are the things that as exhibitors we should really wish and lobby for? Because to really unlock the growth, for the last 10 years we've been talking about how India needs to be China, how we are still 9,500 screens and they are almost 80,000 screens, despite the population being similar. So to really unlock the potential of theatrical exhibition as a format for a 1.5 billion robust population in a thriving economy, unlike Mr. Donald Trump's beliefs, what do you think are the things in terms of compliances and government authority rules and regulations that are on the wish list for us?
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. So, as you told, with respect to government compliances, Tamil Nadu was the first state, I think, where they made this ticket price cap as, minimum and thing. So, that is actually really helpful. It brings in a lot of audience. The second thing is we had this renewal problem, which we had to do yearly. I think now they have made it 3 years. So that is one thing which is helpful and which the government had made. And the third thing is the valid point which you told. I think single screens is actually the solution to reach a wider population. As I think in a very recent interview, Mr. Ahmed Khan had stated that, even with bigger or biggest blockbuster films like Bahubali or your Dangal, reaches very close to, say, 2% or 3% of the whole India population. So in order to penetrate the whole population, I think to tier 3 and even more than that, I think single screen is your solution to that.
So to have more screens, right, and to even for the existing screens, for the business to grow, what do you think are the compliance or rules and regulations that we can wish for, which will really allow us to grow business in that sense and the count of screens?
I think easy government clearance to, if someone wants to open a property, a theater or something, like they can, I think in Andhra Pradesh or Telangana, they had the single window clearance or something, whereas still in Tamil Nadu, it is difficult. It takes months to get a proper approval to build a theater. I think if government supports us to reduce the process and gives a more quicker clearance, it would support.
Got it. Kushal?
Well, I just have one more thing to add on to Prem's. See, the Cinematography Act, which rules the cinema theaters across India, need to be revamped because, see, earlier, yes, cinema theaters was the one which was catering, which was having 1,000 or 1,200 people inside the premises. And the rules and safety measures, what was incorporated then was right. But today, if you see at a wedding hall or a convention center, this wedding hall or convention center is not, there's very minimal safety being taken care at those places. And with today's technology and the building structures, I think cinema theaters regulations and restrictions on the buildings and the other safety measures should be brought down by the Indian government itself in order to encourage people build more cinemas. Because see, if I can just quote you some, within a radius of 500 meters, there should not be any petrol bunk. And the petrol bunks today are very safe. This, I haven't seen any one accidental issue of any petrol bunks being taken. So considering all these things, I think the government of India should also bring down some restrictions on this, so that we can utilize the smaller spaces also to bring in more cinemas. Because of today, because another one rules what there is, you should have 30 feet in the front and 15 and rest of the three side as a setback. I think it's not required now, because if you are planning to build a 250 or 300 seating or 500 seating capacity, why do you need all this setbacks? It's not required, right? And today the property scale, the area of the property itself is very less. Hardly you will get 5,000 or 6,000 or 10,000 square feet area. So if I get an space of this size, I can build a theater over there. I do not. So that's it. That's it.
But Vishek, I know I'm going to unleash you with what I'm talking about, so I've kept the blast for the last. One thing that both of us are really passionate about, and we really try to build like the rest of us here, is very often when there are conversations that happen about the exhibition sector, there are these terms that we get to hear very often. Are single screens dying? What's the future of single screens? Will they survive? Right? And unfortunately, the narrative that you hear around the sector in general, where people wonder if the streaming platforms and other avenues of recreation will leave enough room for the exhibition sector to breathe. And even within that, more particularly, single screens are pinpointed at, unfortunately, not just by external entities, but also a lot of people within the entertainment ecosystem, where they really question the future of these standalone properties, despite the fact that they've survived 100 years and still continue to do. I mean, we are in the week of Coolie, which has done unprecedented numbers out of single screens in Tamil Nadu. So Vishek, about this narrative that's being set, one, what do you think has made that happen? And second, how do we set it right?
Thanks, Akshay, and a very good afternoon to all of you. Single screens are playing against the house. The rules are set against us. Right from the programming aspect, if two big films are coming, we will be asked to choose one, antagonizing the other distributors, antagonizing the other producers. When it comes to perception building, the narrative, even the commercials that are offered to a single screen, suppose a single screen gives a comparative amount of collection to a two-screen property, a single screen would be given a lesser revenue share than a two-screen property. So we are definitely playing against the house. The rules are set against us. The commercial terms, the programming aspects. So if a single screen typically has 500, 600 seats, but if a smaller property, two-screen property, has only 70 seats or 80 seats, these smart theaters or whatever they've come today with, they would be given the flexibility to program all the content, but a single screen will be denied that option. Now, in a competitive market, what that happens is that you're gifting away your own audience to these theaters, where your audience who comes and patronizes your cinema is shown the way to those two-screen properties or three-screen properties when 2 or 3 big films come on a festive date. You made a very interesting point about narratives. I often get calls from journalists across the board, and they will ask this typical question: Vishek, do you think single screens will survive? Vishek, do you think single screens have a future? Vishek, do you think... The question is that the publicly listed entity that we have in the exhibition sector, even that is not doing well. If I read the reports correctly that were posted that is there in the public domain, they have also incurred losses, and they are also in losses, and they are also struggling with the numbers, and they are also trying to convince the stakeholders. So the right question would be that, are theaters making money? So this constant narrative that single screens are dying, the problem lies in the fact that content, whenever good cinema comes, I often quote this example that there was this cinema which was closed around about 100 kilometers away from me in Bihar. And it was closed for the last 1 year. On 15th August 2023, they opened the doors. And the owner sent me pictures that he had 2,500 people standing outside, 1,000 inside the movie theater. The film that was playing was Gadar 2. So whenever content is coming, whenever a Bahubali comes, a Gadar comes, a Jawan comes, a Pathan comes, an Animal comes, a Chhawa comes, even this year we've had some fantastic films whichever have come. Whenever the content is coming, single screens are firing, single screens are delivering the numbers, single screens are doing well. So this whole narrative that is set against single screens, we constantly fight. And I think the distributors, the producers also need to realize and support, because the audience that we cater to, first of all, you have to understand that India has only 9,000 screens for a population of 140 crores. Now, if you look at United States of America, they have close to 40,000 screens for a population of 34 crores. China, on the other hand, has more than 80,000 screens for a population which is comparable to India. So we are a grossly underscreened market, number one. Suresh Babu, in my last conversation that I had with him, said that we ironically produce the maximum number of films with the least number of theaters. And then we are saying that single screens are dying. The question is that are we making content that is acceptable to the theatrical audience? Now, the other question that you brought up about OTT platforms, etc., whether we will find a space or not. I think OTT platforms have really helped movie theaters. I think what they have done over COVID, as Sir was rightly pointing out, is that they put content and the adoption became easier for audiences across the country. And people became aware of Kerala, Malayalam cinema, Kannada cinema, Tamil cinema, Telugu cinema, and the reception and the warmth that became. So whenever, I will give you an example. We didn't program a film called Hit 3, Nani's last film. On Thursday, a group of 40 kids came to my cinema and they said that, why aren't you playing this film? And we said, we are not aware, no one has asked us to play this film. They said, we want this film in your cinema. I called up my distributor. He said, yeah, you can plan it, but you arrange it. We started playing it from Saturday and it opened to a packed house. Now, that is the change that OTT platforms have brought in. They have made the adoption of content so seamless across the board. I mean, last week we were discussing that you are seeing the cross-pollination of talent happening. That is due to OTT platforms. When you watch a film on OTT and it is so accessible to you, your connection, your engagement becomes higher. I do not see OTT platforms as competing with movie theaters. Nothing is competing with movie theaters, simply because the same thing was said when black and white television came. The same thing was said when color television came. The same thing was said when VHS came. The same thing was said when DVD came. Same thing when streaming came. The disruption happens in the home viewing space, not in the outside space. The disruption that we talk about in the theatrical space is that genres that we are making, the kind of content we are making, they migrate to home viewing. So this slice of life content that Bollywood was monetizing so successfully pre-COVID, that became so accessible on OTT platforms, and you had so much of that content that content for theatrical audience was not palatable anymore. So they rejected that content. And that's why you saw such bad openings of even big stars, because that content was not flying. Amir Khan suffered, Akshay Kumar suffered, all these guys suffered because that content had migrated home. Similarly, maybe that the same thing is happening with the universes, the spy universe, the cop universe, the MCU, etc. So, this churn keeps happening. That does not mean that there is no theatrical audience. A Pushpa 2 managed to do 800 crore plus. A new love story with ranked newcomers just has smashed it across North India, left, right, and center. So OTT platforms are not really challenging movie theaters. The problem lies in 2 points: content and pricing. We need to get these two things right. And I think there will be a boom in the Indian theatrical space. And India, the kind of love and passion we have for movies, I think we should definitely be having 30, 40,000 screens in India. I think that's the real potential that this country has, the kind of love we have for movies.
Got it. Vishek, the other thing that I think we don't manage well enough is leveraging economies of scale for the simple reason that single screens in India, on account of their ownership, are very fragmented, right? Today, for a national chain that controls, let's say, 800 screens, for them to deal with a vendor for projectors, a vendor for sound, a vendor for popcorn and cola, a vendor for a theater management system, is a lot more efficient for the simple reason that they can, one, use economies of scale, and because of the economies of scale, vendors are incentivized enough to sell to them and to partner with them because they get a sizable chunk of screens that they can actually roll their products into. Is there a way, and Suresh Babu Garu, I think you may have very good insights for this because you run a few hundred screens in Andhra, Telangana. When you have those economies of scale and that count of screens, how can we really leverage that, and how can all of us in some way come together to usher new technologies in together by leveraging economies of scale or new vendors or new products, new offerings, whatever else?
It's good that if we can do it, but unfortunately we fight week on week for the films. So that's where we don't get along well. See, like somebody was asking us, why don't we form a group or an association? Good, we'll form the group or the association, but next week there's only one movie. We have 3 single screens. Who will pay more, who will fight more, and who will get it? That's where we all lose it off. But definitely there are we should just, other than programming, there are other places where we can look for some kind of synergies that will definitely help. Earlier, we were talking about the digital screens. So those kinds of things we should all share information and check who's doing better. First time I heard about departmental store. No, that's a very good concept if you get permissions to get it done. I was writing down that about the digital screens that we can do. Now, those kinds of supports we must have. Can we really get uniform percentage system all over the country? It will be a major help. The multiplexes were able to do it. Can all single screens together get it done for the whole country? Then there is definitely an opportunity of survival. See, what is happening, we are only, out of the 365 days, only 120 days are reasonably decent days, or maybe less. And at that time, you're playing a film on terms which are not favorable, it's not going to work out for the single screen. And the real estate prices going up so high, doesn't make sense to continue in that space. So what will happen? To me, single screen theater viewing is a culture. As a country, we lost the drama culture. We should not lose this culture. This community experience, going all of us together, watching films together, that's a culture that the government should promote. And that's the most peaceful place in a cinema theater. It's so nice. So that's something that we should see that governments are sensitized about, the importance of that cultural aspect of cinema. And we as exhibitors can get into maybe a little more niche programming, do better data analysis, and get other programming other than just waiting for the standard programming. Like I heard that Alamo Theater in America.
Alamo Draft House, sir.
Yeah, they've really curated it very well. So we have to look at how we can recurate our properties.
Got it. So one more thing, and I'm sure if all of you have nephews, nieces, children who are between the age group of, let's say, 2 years to 14 years, with a show of hands, how many of them do you know watch Indian content in cinemas or otherwise? I'm assuming a very few, because that's what I see around me. Now, this is scary to me as an exhibitor, all of you, for the simple reason that this is the audience that will grow up tomorrow, have the paying parity, and the choice that they are making today, which is either stuff from Hollywood or stuff from the Korean and the Japanese anime bit, or whatever else, but the audience of tomorrow that we hope to nurture and bring to cinemas 7, 8, 10 years down the line is probably not consuming enough Indian content or is not in the habit of consuming our stuff. What do you think is the thing that all of us, and especially as standalones, which are these properties where maybe the patronage is slightly of a higher age group, what do you think can all of us work towards to actually nurture and cultivate the audience of tomorrow to secure our future? Yeah, Abhishek?
Uh, Specifically speaking, Gen Z and Alpha, okay? So we're talking about the Gen Zs and the Alphas. Now this generation, the Gen Zs, typically is the first digital native, okay? They were born with smartphones. They just don't want to experience a film, they want to own the film. When they come to a movie theater, they would want to make reels. They would want to put themselves on those reels. They want shareable content because they're constantly online. They spent a huge amount of time digital. So our content needs to be like that. Now, a particular example like we discussed was Sayara. And this generation is typically more in terms of they have enough humor, etc. And what they really found connecting with that film was the deep emotion that film offered, irrational love. And that is something they really connected with because they don't get it anywhere else. And I think we need to curate experiences for them. And thankfully now, because I think our industry, specifically speaking, because I come from the Hindi belt, Bollywood had become very preachy and pedantic. Every content was about some messaging, and they started speaking to an older audience. Typically, millennials, etc., and they were more connecting with that audience, the 30 plus, or if you do the gridding, like the 4-quadrant gridding, 25 plus and 25 below, we need to curate content which is in sync with their appetites, specifically the Gen Z, because I try and go to schools in my hometown and I try to speak to children. I just did an event in my hometown where I went and I spoke to children and I said that digital addiction, you try and stay away from it, and communal experience, you try and promote it there. I think efforts need to be put in by exhibitors like us. We need to reach out and tell them. I did a campaign in my cinema that keep your phone away and you get a popcorn free. If you submit your phone, we will give you a free popcorn. So that went very well. People loved it. I got a great response, specifically from parents who were tired of children always on their phone. So they said, this is very good, etc. So I think we need to tackle it in a very smart manner. We need to make content which this generation likes, okay? Because this generation they have a lot of, in terms of they have a lot of information. They have less experience, because their outings, etc., are very regulated. Their more time is digital. They have a world of experiences, etc. So the content, specifically from Bollywood, needs to speak to them, or from any industry needs to speak to them and make it personalized. Let them personalize their content. Let them enjoy their time. When people in Sayara were making reels, I was loving it. Because that is what they want. Wherever they go, the first thing they do is they take a picture. They take a picture and they put it out in the world on Instagram, etc., etc. That's their way of life. You have to accept it, that this generation is a digital native, unlike us, and they consume and they throw out content in a very different manner. And our industries need to attune and start speaking to them rather than holding back and trying to stick to old formulas. Newer films with newer star casts are doing so well. I mean, look at the kind of numbers Sayara did. Look at the kind of numbers, these re-releases did. Sanam Teri Kasam, etc., ran to packed houses across North India, did 3 times, 4 times the number of its original run. And I think this generation, I think personally, what I see, is craving deep, heavy emotions. And I think that is what is coming across. Animal, Sayara, and all the kind of content that is coming. They are really craving for that. And I think our industry should really start focusing across India on this generation, because this is our future.
Very interesting. Yes, sir?
Just to talk about niche audience programming as such, we at Anuradha Cinema, what we have done is we have formed a film society called Anuradha Film Society. And then we have decided that once every fortnight, we'll select maybe a Wednesday night show or something like that. And we will show only award-winning films, and we have registered ourselves with the Film Society of India. We have got some content from embassies and all. So that is a niche audience that we are trying to capture, which the multiplex and all, they don't think of those. Just for our own survival, we have thought on those lines. Just so.
Interesting thought. And
Yeah.
yes,
So when you are talking about the Gen Z or the younger generation, consuming this content, so we in DNC theaters, like, see, we had done another program especially for the school children. So we operate even in we operate single screens in even tier 3 towns or even smaller towns, where these kids, so we target them and we bring them from schools. So some of them had their first experiences in theaters. Like, it was the first 3D experience for them when we had Lion King and Jurassic World and all that. So it was all, a part of our program during the weekdays where we have very low occupancy. We target the schools. And for most of them, it was the first experience for them to have a 3D movie. And this is another niche program which we are doing.
got it. Very interesting. Multiple alerts now to really close the session. So I guess we must do that in the interest of all our audiences getting their lunch. And thank you for the amazing insights, gentlemen. Let's hope that we're all back next year in even happier times. This year, thankfully, has had, at least for Hindi and, for Kerala, for Karnataka, in the recent months, some really good releases that have done good business. Let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that the momentum carries on and we do a phenomenal financial year now. So thank you, everyone, for your insights. And thank you, Big Cine Expo and Raghav, for having us.
I request our speakers to please remain with us just a little longer. Please take your seats and remain with us on stage. Well, what an incredible discussion that was. We would like to say a big thank you to our moderator and esteemed panelists for a truly engaging discussion and a powerful exchange of ideas. May I please invite Raghav on stage to take this moment to thank all our speakers, our esteemed panelists, our moderator for taking out time to be here with us at the 8th edition of the Big Cine Expo here in Chennai to share their wonderful thoughts and their ideas with us. Truly inspiring. And we would like to take this moment to present mementos, thanking them for their invaluable time. Let's give them a huge round of applause, please. I request our panelists on the stage to please come together with your mementos, please, for a group photo opportunity. Thank you once again for your time, your presence, and for being here today, sharing your wonderful thoughts, your ideas, and truly delighting us with whatever you had to say. Thank you so much, gentlemen.